Imagine you had a job that paid you every single day, no weekends, no holidays, no breaks, for an entire year. Sounds exhausting, right? Well, that's basically the life of a chicken on a modern farm. Here's a number that sounds made up, but it's not. The average hen on a commercial farm lays around 300 eggs a year. That's almost one every single day. Now go look at almost any wild bird. Sparrows, robins, even the closest living relative of the chicken itself. None of them are doing that. Not even close. Most wild birds lay a relatively small clutch during a breeding season, sometimes more than once, rather than producing eggs continuously. So the question is, what happened? Why does one bird lay eggs almost every day of its life, while its closest wild relatives lay a tiny fraction of that? Is the chicken just built differently? Or did something else completely change the game? Stick with me because the answer involves biology, evolution, and a slightly uncomfortable truth about what high performance actually costs. Let's get into it. Let's start with the chicken most of us picture, the one on an egg farm. Today, in the US, the average commercial laying hen produces about 300 eggs a year, and top-performing breeds can get even higher. That number comes straight from industry and university data. But here's something most people don't realize. Not every chicken is that productive. Traditional, dual-purpose, or heritage breeds, the kind you'd find in a backyard flock, lay considerably fewer eggs than commercial layers. Some produce well under half as many, depending on the breed. So when you hear chickens lay hundreds of eggs, that's really only true for one specific type, the ones bred, fed, and managed for exactly that purpose. These hens start laying around 4 to 5 months old, hit their peak output in year 1, and over a lifetime, a single hen can produce several hundred eggs total. Now compare that to a few generations ago. Mid-20th century data shows the average hen back then laid around 150 eggs a year, while today's average commercial layer is up around 300. That's roughly double in just a few decades. So something changed, and it wasn't the chicken's biology on its own. But we'll come back to that. Now let's flip to the wild. Most wild birds don't lay eggs continuously. They lay in something called a clutch. Think of a clutch as one batch of eggs laid at once, usually somewhere between 2 and 6 eggs depending on the species. Many wild birds produce only 1 or a few clutches during a breeding season, though it varies widely by species. Some nest once, others might try again if their first nest fails or conditions are good. Take the American robin, for example. It typically lays around 3 to 5 eggs per clutch, and can attempt anywhere from 1 to 3 broods in a season. That can add up to roughly a dozen eggs in a season, sometimes more, and that's actually one of the more productive wild songbirds out there. And this is where the wild side changes the story, because the deeper reason wild birds don't lay hundreds of eggs isn't really about biology at all. It's about survival. We'll get into that in a second. But first, let's look at the most important comparison in this entire video. Here's where it gets really interesting. The chicken you see on a farm today didn't come from nowhere. It was domesticated from a wild bird called the red junglefowl, and this bird still exists today, wild, in parts of Asia. Domestic chickens and red junglefowl are extraordinarily close relatives. They share a close wild ancestor, but humans have spent generations selecting chickens for higher and higher egg production. So here's the real experiment nature already ran for us. Same wild roots, completely different pressures. What's the difference in output? A wild red junglefowl hen produces roughly 12 eggs a year during her breeding season. Her domesticated descendant? Around 300. Let that sink in. From the same wild ancestor. That's around 25 times as many eggs. So what changed? It's not that the modern chicken evolved some superpower. It's that humans greatly reduced several of the natural brakes on sustained egg production. And there are 2 big ones in particular. The first is called broodiness. This is the instinct where, after laying a clutch, a hen stops laying and sits on her eggs to incubate them for about 21 days. Wild junglefowl still do this, and research shows brooding sharply caps their egg output. Modern commercial layer breeds have been selectively bred to strongly reduce this instinct, so instead of stopping, they just keep going. The second break is season. Wild birds mostly breed when daylight and food conditions line up, usually spring into summer. Farms work around this with long-day lighting, keeping hens under roughly 16 hours of light a day, which helps maintain the hormonal signals their bodies associate with active laying. Reduce the stop for winter signal. Reduce the stop to sit on eggs instinct. And what you're left with is a bird whose body just keeps going. And that's only half the story, because even after humans reduce those natural breaks, the hen still has to physically build an entire egg every single day. So how is that even possible? Forming a single egg inside a hen's body takes roughly 25 hours. So under ideal conditions, a hen is laying almost as fast as her body physically allows, close to 1 egg every day. Here's how it works. Light hitting the hen's eyes helps regulate her reproductive hormone system, keeping the conditions in place that are needed for continuous ovulation. It's not that more light magically speeds up each individual egg. It's that consistent light keeps the whole system switched on, instead of shutting down for winter the way it would in the wild. That comparison leads to the more important question: what does it actually cost a hen's body to stay switched on like that for months on end? Producing an eggshell requires a serious amount of calcium. If a hen's diet doesn't fully cover that demand, her skeleton can become an important calcium reserve when dietary supply isn't enough, meaning her body starts pulling from her own bones to make up the difference. Now imagine that happening nearly every single day for months at a time. Research on high-producing hens has consistently linked sustained laying with reduced bone density over time. Put simply, all that extra calcium has to come from somewhere. So what does this mean? It means those 300 eggs a year aren't just a fun fact. They represent a body working close to the edge of what it can physically sustain, month after month. Compare that to a wild bird laying a dozen eggs a year, taking long breaks, incubating, resting through winter. Its reproductive system just isn't operating under that same sustained production pressure. So here's the real question. If laying more eggs means more chances at babies, why didn't evolution just make wild birds lay hundreds too? Because here's the strangest part. If hundreds of eggs are physically possible, why didn't evolution already get there on its own? Because in nature, laying more eggs isn't automatically better. Each egg costs energy. Each chick needs to be fed. And every trip back and forth to the nest to bring food attracts predators. There's a well-known idea in biology, sometimes called Lack's principle, which suggests that birds tend to lay roughly as many eggs as they can realistically feed and protect, not endlessly more. Lay too many, and you can't raise them all. Lay too few, and you're wasting opportunity. Evolution tends to find a workable balance. Chickens on a farm, though, don't have to worry about any of that. Humans handle the food. Humans handle the safety. So the trade-off that shapes every wild bird on the planet simply doesn't apply to a farm chicken anymore. In other words, wild birds are shaped by evolution to survive. Modern chickens have been shaped by humans to produce. Two completely different goals, using nearly the same biological blueprint. So let's bring it all together. A wild bird lays a small number of eggs a year because nature rewards survival, not quantity. A modern chicken lays hundreds of eggs a year because humans reduce the natural breaks, season, broodiness, and food scarcity, and replace them with light, feed, and breeding designed for one thing: output. It's not that the chicken is naturally superhuman. It's that we built the conditions that make 300 eggs possible. And that comes with a cost most people never think about. So next time you crack an egg into a pan, you're not just looking at breakfast. You're looking at the result of thousands of years of domestication and selection changing what a chicken's reproductive system can do. If that changed how you'll look at something as ordinary as an egg, that's exactly the point of this channel. Taking everyday things and showing you the surprising science hiding underneath. If you want more of these, hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.